right, man. Well, here we are. Heat wave.
Here we are. I probably could have, with my voice today, we probably could have said we had a guest on.
Oh.
That's what we should have done. Yeah, Robbie's out today. We have a guest subbing in, Peter Brady. It is January 22nd, the year 2025. Welcome, everybody. Listen to the Crushing Iron podcast. This is episode 828.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I got some things right. Yeah, dude, it is. As I told you right a minute ago, it's drier than. Well, the Sahara is not dry though, right? It's like pretty humid. It's like, I guess, drier than Denver in August. Maybe that's a good reference.
Really? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I've never been to the Sahara, so.
Yeah, I haven't been to the Sahara either. So, but from what I hear, it's pretty hot. But yeah, it's so dry and so cold. My voice is hopefully not leaving. But yeah, if it is, it's be a good way for it to go out on podcast 828. So,
yeah, dude, butter coffee.
Cold, and the kid was out of school again yesterday. No school Monday for most people, and then yesterday, -20, little chilly. I get it. And then back to school today. It wasn't like it was a huge jump. It was like, I think 5 degrees, and they walked to school this morning. I'm always reminded, like, at that age, how much you just don't give a shit about what the weather is. He was like, he's in this like shorts, tights mode. And he was like, Dad, what's the temp today? I'm like, well, it's only going to be like 11. He was like, perfect. Shorts and tights. I'm like, no. I'm like, not. What do you mean shorts and tights? I'm like, the tights are irrelevant. They're just like painting your skin a different color. They have no insulation at all. He's like, what? He's like, I wanted to wear my shorts, my tights, and my Crocs. I'm like, dude, this isn't, no. Friday will be in the 30s. If you're going to roll like that in the 30s, have at it. Single digits, I can't have you getting sick, and I definitely can't have you home any longer than what you've been over the last, like, 8 weeks.
Wow. Shorts, tights, and Crocs. That's
shorts,
that's
tights,
the kids' look.
Crocs.
Wow.
I'm over here old and bundled up with, like, a beanie on next to the fireplace.
I would have been thermal long johns, Oshkosh painter's pants, and one of those puffy coats with the faux fur around an Eskimo kind of jacket.
Yeah, you like quadruple. If you don't have winter clothes, you just do it. Like, when we lived in Tennessee, we never got snow, so we had no snow gear. Moving to the Midwest, I've got it now, but like in Nashville, we didn't have anything. So when we got snow and it was cold, we just quadruple bagged everything. I'll just take 4 pairs of pants, 2 t-shirts, 2 long sleeve shirts, a hoodie, a jacket, 2 beanies, some sports gloves, then my super thin winter gloves, and like 3 pairs of socks. And that's how you do it. But now here in the Midwest, we at least have some like somewhat good, cold weather stuff. But yeah, it is a bit brisk. But you know what? It's fine. That's what we expect here. But it's been cold like that everywhere. So hopefully this podcast does a little bit to warm you up today. So we appreciate you tuning in today. We know you have quite a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general. In times of valuables, appreciate you tuning in today. We cover it all. We do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. We do race recaps and also a lot of race previews. But for the most part, Mike and I, as coaches, athletes, best friends, we just sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through in life, not just as coaches, but athletes ourselves. Mike and I work with a wide range of athletes all across the globe, from beginner-level triathletes in the very first 5K or sprint triathlon, all the way up through elite level amateurs trying to get back toward championships, and everyone in between of all over the globe. We use the feedback loop we have with them and training peaks, emails, text messages, and the like to drive the discussion today. We also like to utilize our Facebook group, and we'll do that right now. And you can search that, Crushing Iron Group. Answer one simple question and let you right in. Awesome people, fantastic community, solid resource in a sport that is oftentimes way overcomplicated and way too confusing. It is a safe, actionable space to get great information from seasoned veterans and beginners alike that have been on the block and made plenty of the mistakes, a lot of times the same mistakes Mike and I have had, and very willing to lend a helping hand, hopefully allow you to avoid some of the pitfalls we made along the way. That is it. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
I felt like one of those moments where like the entire ceiling light came in, your laptop went down, you fell out of the chair, and you're like sitting underneath like rubble.
That was weird. Yeah.
Okay, good. Just checking. But yeah, outside of that, we try to do our best to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Yeah, I know a video. I took a video yesterday. I went out ice skating on the lake here just to see how it was with the GoPro, and I just opened it, and that was just the blades against the ice. I didn't think the sound was on, so I was just trying to see how it looked. But yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, it was
and how did that go?
I got the stick and the puck out for the first time in 30-some years. And,
No way.
Little bit.
Hayden would be super proud.
Yeah. I was thinking it would have been nice to have him out there because skating around with a puck all over a big lake is kind of weird. I kept just shooting it out to the middle of nowhere and then going to get it. It was kind of, it was kind of cool, but it was about minus 10, I think, yesterday when I was doing it.
Oh, dude. Yeah. Well, good for you for getting out there.
I know. I actually laid out yesterday.
Laid out on the ice after a fall, or like
no,
laid out and got some sun?
I was just kind of like, I got off the treadmill and I was like, man, I was kind of hot. And I walk outside in my hood, just my hoodie and beanie, and just laid in the lawn chair for a minute, got a little sun on my face at minus 10. I just do shit like that, I think, sometimes to get the neighbors to get all weird. It's kind of like cold air plunging.
I was going to say, like right now, you can just go outside and like lay down on the freaking asphalt and get a nice little bunch. I like that. I was outside laying out. I wonder what the old e-neighbors threads look like this morning. Did you go like in your skimmies, or did you have clothes on?
No, I had clothes on, but I was thinking, I probably could have done this with shorts on.
Oh, for a minute. Knowing you for sure could have got that in just the shorts.
Just man. Yeah, I like the mental game, man.
It's all about the mental game. We have some mental questions percolating today. We have popped in the Facebook group because it's been a minute since last year. A little bit of a Q&A. So we got questions we'll go through from our listeners and our Facebook group participants, and we'll try to get through those as quickly as we can today, hopefully before my voice goes out permanently. Hopefully not permanently, but we'll start from the top and we'll roll through. I might pick and choose. We'll see. I'll just start with the obvious one. Jason Ming, I like pineapple on pizza. Is that still frowned upon? Yes, it is. So I have changed my mind on a lot of things since we did our very first podcast, and that is not one of them. I still heavily frown upon pineapple on pizza.
Yeah, to me it's like a cream soda of pizza. You have one piece once a year or something like that. It's like a dessert
to me.
You have a bunch of pizza and then you have one of those. It's like dessert. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like it's good. Like you said, every 6 months, like you roll into Mr. Gaddy's, you have all the good stuff, then you have the dessert pizza, and you think it's a good idea. You're like, I could use a little sweet salty combo, and you have it, and then you're like, you take 2 bites, and you're like, this wasn't worth it. And I feel like that's the same way with pineapple. It's the black licorice of the pizza family. You're like, I think I could, you want to seem like you're sophisticated, and you're like, I love the suit, like the texture and the, what it does to my palate. And you just, that's the same thing with pineapple pizza. It just, it doesn't belong. It just doesn't belong.
Black licorice. That just seems like black licorice would be what a villain in a Bond movie snacks on.
It's love that. It's so true. Yeah, I love that. Next question. Gabe Raff. Any advice on adjusting to an aero bike? In a perfect world, I'd have gotten a brand new one with professional bike fitting, but reality is a good deal on a used one that seems like it fits okay. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, bike prices are pretty insane right now. The thing though that I would just caution everyone with when purchasing a new bike is oftentimes purchasing the right bike for more money is way more inexpensive and cheaper long term than having to buy 2 bikes that don't fit right. And I see this a lot with athletes. They want to save a few dollars, and like, I think this one will fit, or I like the colors and I like the brand. They get it, and then 6 months later they're absolutely miserable on said bike.
It looks
the
good,
best
though.
thing. What's that?
It looks good though.
Yeah, right. It looks good. It looks good sitting in your pain cave, not being used. And then it'll look good, on the bike rack in your Ironman transition when you go walk to run because you're not fit on it properly. Outside of that, yeah, I mean, like you got to be fit for these things. If you went ahead and made a purchase like you did, immediately take it and go fit. Get a fit on it. I mean, like that's how there shouldn't be an adjusting period. If it's fit well, like that's drastic. Yes, you'll have to get used from a road bike to aero bike and being in aero position for a longer period of time. that's a good, I always like to do like, I'll do like pyramids. Like when I'm getting back to using like the TT position, I'll do like 1 minute and 1 minute. These are like arrow and then sitting up. I'll do 1 minute on, 1 minute off, 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off, 3 minutes on, and just kind of work my way up, especially for long rides. It also breaks up the monotony of it. And that's kind of slowly works your way. And then you can also just, understand and realize like what positions feel right, what don't. You can kind of mess around with it, but take your bike, go get fit on it. And if it's not the right size bike, they can probably get you a good portion of the way with either a change in crank length or a saddle height or your TT bars. There's a lot of things they can do to get you pretty close. So that's the first thing I would do. And then after you get that done, then I would work on getting more comfortable in that set position. But don't try to get comfortable in a position that you just eyeballed, because that's not recommended.
It's hard. I think a lot of tears in aero when you're trying to get used to the new position or whatever. And yeah, I don't know, man. It's like I think for me, it's weird because I think my core is like not as strong as it should be most of the time, and then it starts getting stronger the more I ride and more I run, and as the season progresses, and I start feeling more comfortable in my aero position. So, yeah, I think a fit is huge. I mean, I've been living off a fit, and it is weird how, in triathlon, I feel like you kind of get stiff and, not as pliable anyway. And then, I don't know. I've always admired people who just are instantly comfortable in aero. It seems like it's always a little bit of a challenge for me every season. So,
yeah, as we get older, things get a little bit less flexible.
Yeah.
Jeff Terra, favorite smart trainers. I'm late at getting one for winter training. Looked at the used market, quality, durability, and spend for the money. Thanks as always. Let's see. Yeah. Ryan Grubb answered it. The answer is Jet Black Victory or Wahoo Kicker Core. Ryan Grubb is pretty, he's one of our athletes. He is pretty much into all things tech, and I would take his advice over mine because I'm not a smart trainer guy, and I know you aren't either. I get questions all the time from athletes like, hey, how do you troubleshoot this? I'm like, I have no idea. I don't do one. So yeah, I would take his word for it. And as with all things, buyer beware. I know just as many people who regret having one as people who enjoy having one. So, there's always things to, as with all things tech, right? It giveth and it taketh away.
Yeah. I mean, me, I was just trying to think when you're saying that, like what kind of like tech things that I'm so into that I would know the answer to anything tech related. I can't think of anything. I just don't. I've had the same trainer for about, I don't know, 8 years. It's just
a decade. I was going to say, yeah, kind of.
Yeah, it probably is a decade.
Yeah, I'm still crushing it on the watt bike. Jason Bussell, you're about to get banned from the group. I think this is the second time you've asked this question. What is your opinion about pre-race coitus? For those of you who don't know what coitus is, he's talking about what's your opinion on having sex before a race? Is it too draining, or could it boost testosterone to improve performance? Is it different for males or females? If I didn't know you, I would think this was a joke, but I'm pretty sure you're serious. And honestly, this probably varies from person to person. If you're a 2-minute Tom, I'd probably say have at it. A nice little pre-race hit out, no big deal. If you're last a long time Larry, probably avoid it. It could nothing wrong with staying in zone 2, but it could burn a little too many calories. So I'm not sure about improving performance. Your significant other might want you to improve your own performance if you're a 2-minute Tom. But yeah, I'm not sure if it boosts testosterone or not. But yeah, I mean, listen, if you're over 40, if you can get it, I say get it.
It's real, huh? Did we answer this before?
We have. He's asked this, I think, a few weeks after Wisconsin camp last year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I always defer to like boxing mentality on almost everything because it's such a primal sport, and those guys supposedly don't have it. So I don't know.
Interesting. Supposedly don't have it. Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. There's our hot take on sex before a race. Nicole Wellman, do you think it's important that your long run for the week is the day after the long ride? Most training plans put the ride on Saturday and the run on Sunday. I run with the run club on Saturday mornings, and Sundays are wide open for a long ride. But I wondered if it was important to do the run the day after the ride rather than reverse. Thank you. No, I think your long run is best placed where it is. And honestly, I think we've talked about this before, but to me, not for all athletes, because, when I think of the long run and the long ride, long ride, you obviously think of time. Long run, I just think of bandwidth and fatigue. I have the same belief on where to place the long run as I do brick workouts. Like the old belief, or the way that most people think of, like, hey, you've got to put the long run after the ride because you want to run on fatigued legs. Like, no, you don't. You want to run with the best economy. Period. Running is running. Same thing with, like, there's never going to be an Olympic sport called brick running. And we're going to hammer for 10 minutes on the bike, and then we're all going to run 5K, and that's going to be a new Olympic sport because running off the bike is so different than just regular running. Running is running. And the best thing you can do with running is to run frequently and to run with the best form. Because the more you run with the best form, the more likely you are to consistently engage those muscles, the more likely you are to run with that same efficiency and economy, therefore requiring less energy to move faster and expend less energy and to move quicker, which is the name of the game. You don't get extra points for running on tired legs and doing these stupid 2 hour and 15, 2.5, 3 hour long runs that you see so many people do, practicing a run walk for a day and a half. There's absolutely no point. The best thing you can do, now if it fits, it fits. And again, that kind of goes back to bandwidth on the long run. Is like, long runs to some people are soothing. Like, they love to get up and do a long run early in the morning before anyone's awake. And it's just a nice way to, like, decompress. Some people like the long run, and I think it's also like how it's structured. Like, if you're doing like a long aerobic run, you can probably sneak it in during the week. If it's a longer run with some intensity, you may, again, going back to bandwidth, you may want that Sunday morning bandwidth to, like, you haven't had to work on Saturday. Yes, you got your ride in, but you can wake up, you can take a little bit extra time, and you've got the extra bandwidth to push yourself the way you need to push yourself. And that's just specific to the person, right? But I mean, you and I both, I know I've got athletes that do long runs on every single day of the week. There have been times where I've done my long runs on Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. Wednesdays because it fits good in my schedule and it's a good midweek day. And then because the thing about Saturday, Sundays, especially if you're doing Ironman training, and you're doing an hour and a half, hour 45, maybe 2 hour run, you get up at 6 o'clock, you can get that done. You're done by 8. So if you have the time, that Saturday, Sunday is best used to just do like a double long ride, put your long run on a Wednesday. If you're a person who doesn't like to do their stuff and like pack out their weekends because you're busy, I always recommend, like, if you can, try to sneak in your long run on a Friday and then wake up early Saturday morning, get your long run in, and then you got the whole weekend. It's like having 2 days off. You get up at 5, get your long run done. You're done by 7. Nobody's even awake yet. Boom. There you go. You could do it or you could do it on Monday. Like, sometimes that's a good place to put it. And so, but yeah, it always varies. Number one, based on your schedule, and two, just based on, where you need it to be with, again, like, just, it's all about bandwidth. The other thing that I would say and mention on that is, we oftentimes think about where we place a workout, whether it's an intensity bike or a long swim or a long and intense, ride or run. But you can't think of just the session. You have to think about what you're going to be able to do the next day. And is that next day going to be conducive to recovery? So you might do a long run during the week, but the next day you better know that you're going to have to take an easy swim or an easy bike and make sure you can recover. You can't just slam in something else. So you got to kind of take in like that 48-hour window. It's like, where is it best placed to not only execute it, but also to recover from the run that you just executed?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I think this kind of thing, like the brick and the running off the bike and that stuff, becomes very psychological to a lot of people. Like you're saying, I mean, if you're getting a long run in, it doesn't, I mean, the next day, I mean, maybe the bike kind of hits you for a minute or two or a mile or whatever. I mean, I think that's just how running is in general. For me, it's sort of like transitioning into running, getting going. And after that first mile or so, it doesn't seem like it really mattered what you did beforehand if you're in good enough shape to handle it. So yeah, I think, a lot of people like to do bricks just because they have to, kind of show themselves. And I understand that. I do think there's, probably something to it. It's just like that feeling, getting used to that feeling, just so it's something natural. You get off the bike, you start running, you're like, this feels weird, but I'm used to it, and then you can just kind of get through it. So, back to back though on the long stuff. Yeah, I have a lot of people could do it the reverse all the time, and it's just it's about the time and the mileage. So, I don't think the order really matters.
Yeah, agreed. Rich Laffy.
Hey, Rich.
Maybe I pronounced that right. Late to find you guys. I'm on cast 64 now. Wondering, man, you got a long way to go, dude. Wondering if you have ever unpacked the athlete guide. Looked over one and felt like an experienced team could help make sense of all that information. Perhaps you cover that already. It's going to take a minute to catch up to 827. Well, first off, welcome to the podcast. A lot's changed and a lot's going to change over the course of your next 730 or 740. So enjoy the ride. No, we have not done an athlete guide podcast, and I refuse to do one. Just read the athlete guide. There is no, go to the athlete, read the athlete guide for every race, go to one pre-race thing, realize that majority of it is a huge, gigantic waste of time, and all it is are people who didn't read the athlete guide answering or asking ridiculous questions. That's all it is. Know the course, know where to check in. It is amazing to me how many people don't read the athlete guide and then post in these groups like, hey, does anybody know what time athlete check-in is? Yeah, read the fucking athlete guide. It's all there. It's also under like schedule of events. Oh, I didn't know I couldn't check in like the day before. Yeah, again, everything you need to know is answered. Take 15 minutes to read it. My favorite actually was back in 2020, 2021, where they did no pre-race briefings. They just emailed you a video of it. That was my favorite because you could just post up in the room, listen to it, and then be done with it. That was absolutely my favorite. And I still didn't listen to it.
I know. Yeah, I mean, if you don't want to do it, I'm not doing it.
Yeah,
sure. I don't even know what that really would mean. What would you say?
Yeah, read it.
This is the time you
all
start.
The info you need is in the athlete guide. That's it. There is no like secret wording or decoding in the athlete guide. All the information's in there. All the information is under like the race, the tab on whatever event you choose, and the schedule. That's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, enjoy the next 760. Eric Main. Least favorite new tech, devices, or gimmicks for triathlon? Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like there's been any new tech that's come out that rubs me in the wrong way. I don't know. I don't know. I don't really have any. I think, tech is kind of going back to smart trainers. Like tech is only as good as it to be consistent. And I think I think the two biggest pieces of technology over the last decade have been the improvement in accuracy and also price point with power meters and super shoes. And those are both like super easy, never really, have any issues with them. Super shoes you just put on and run faster. Like to me, that's probably the best piece of technology in the last decade has been super shoes for triathlon, because you just put them on and you're good. Like, you don't put on your super shoes. You're like, my shoes were stuck in erg mode today and I couldn't get out of it, so I couldn't do my run. Or my power meter, my shoes weren't working. You just put them on, you go run faster. Power meters are so much more accessible than they were a decade ago. But yeah, I mean, there's always going to be tech and devices and gimmicks for triathlon because the market dictates that and has proven that triathletes will buy those, that they would rather buy and purchase and research things to buy than they would to do the work required to be really, really good at what they do. So, I mean, again, the technology and the device and the gimmicks to me are very similar to all the fluff and the color and the graphs and the presentation of the things that Training Peaks has in there. They want you to pay extra for these things, but it doesn't mean that they're necessary. They just know that you feel like you need to have it, so you're going to buy it. And it doesn't mean that there's any validity or, to how you're going to use it. Or if you don't know how to use it, why are you purchasing it? That's my biggest thing. Like that's the same. I used to say the same thing back when power meters came out. I was like, if you're not going to understand and figure out how to use your power meter for good, then all you're doing is buy $1,000 speed and cadence sensor. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of information. I think seems like that's what everything really is. I mean, at least for me, and a lot of people are, hey, well, how do I, like you kind of use it for a minute and then you kind of really don't even know. I don't know. Then it's almost like you just sort of default back to the simplest part of said new inventive technology, right? I was going to ask when you were talking about super shoes, because what is the deal on that? It just kind of takes less out of your, it's like a firm bike shoe, kind of the
it's
weight
an energy
transfer.
saver. Yeah, I mean, it helps propel you forward with how the carbon plates are positioned, and actually, there's been a lot of research that shows it actually like does less damage on you when you run. Now there is some conflicting research that also says like you don't use your Achilles as much, so you could be more susceptible to having an Achilles injury. But I've listened to a lot of, especially like ultra runners and also marathoners, talk about that they run in them now every single run because they're able to put in more mileage because it's easier on their legs.
Mm-hmm.
But these are also people who run the whole marathon, not ones that run the first 6 miles and walk the rest.
Well, yeah, that's it too. I mean, most technology is probably fine. It's just that it comes down to putting in the work. I mean,
yeah,
you can't
that's what you always have
training.
to ask yourself, right? And that's a great point. Was this technology made for the top 5% or the rest of us? Like, because they want the pros to wear it because they can run that fast and for that long without walking. They can bike that hard in that position. They can swim, that long and that hard. And they give it to them because they can use it, and then you see it and then you want to buy it. But it doesn't mean that it's the best thing for you.
Yeah.
Where are we? I like this one. Grant Denny. Short and sweet. Biggest do and don't for each discipline. Here, I will do. Swim, biggest do, 25s, 50s hard. Biggest don't, straight swims. Bike, biggest do, plenty of long aerobic work. Biggest don't hop on Swift and race every single time you get on it. Biggest do for running, run frequently and run on hills. I guess that's 2, but whatever. Biggest don't, do track workouts twice a week.
I like those. I didn't think of that. I think you thought of that beforehand, because I would echo.
I did. I saw the questions, or I would have stumbled like big time.
Like I'm going to right now.
Giving you some extra time.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So as we were saying, yeah, from like one of my personal biggest do's for all three is just sort of having a negative split mentality, depending on no matter the workout, really. Just kind of like always give myself a chance to get there and then finish strong across the board. And I would say don't, at least for me, is don't like overdo. You don't go past today what's going to like impact the next 3 or 4 days. You got to just kind of be in the day and be in the moment. Mm-hmm. But I like yours are specific. Mine are a little bit more vague.
Yeah, but those are all ones that I would 100% agree with. I like those, especially the negative split. And I still think that in everything that I do.
Everything. Every interval I try to negative. Yep. It's a minute interval. I try to negative split the minute.
Yeah.
And it's always, it's like, for me, it's not like, doubling up. I just try to start in manageable, with a little more intensity and then finish with a little bit more, not a ton more.
Yep.
I just find it so fascinating when I'm like, if I'm trying to do a negative split with miles and I'm just maybe 5 seconds, 3 or 4 seconds, just being able to lock that in and that effort is always fun to me. That's a kind of a sweet little game I play.
And everyone should do stuff like that because it also helps you learn how to judge like pace. Can I pace? Do I have different speeds? Do I have different gears? And then calibrating, what, and it just works on, I think, like just making sure you have a tremendous amount of patience in what you're doing, because most people don't. They go out, I always see it in like mile, if I'm looking on like a negative split run for somebody or even in myself, it's like mile 2. If I'm going to mess up, it's in mile 2. I'll jump up like way too much, and then I'll start mile 3 and I'm like, you know what? That's probably a little bit too quick, as I try to like calibrate and measure like my effort based on how much longer I've got. and how I feel, then I'm like, so I'll either stay like just stay if I'm doing like a 850 instead of breaking down, I'll do another 850, or I'll slow it down. Like, you know what, I didn't do it right. Let me go back and then I'll restart. But it's really good to do that kind of stuff, and one just for two, pacing and patience, but also to help like understand or see your lack of understanding in knowing what feels like what. Because I think that's like a huge lost art, is all these questions about technology and lactate and all these kind of things. Like, to me, the greatest skill an athlete can have, an endurance athlete, is to go out the door and run, or whatever sport you're doing, and knowing you've got an hour and a half or whatever it is, and being able to run for a minute or two, maybe longer, warm up 10 minutes, and then say, without looking at their watch, I believe this is the effort that I could hold for this period of time, regardless of what the mileage is going to be, regardless of what the pace is going to be. I think this is the effort that I could hold for this period of time. And then just listen to your body and pay attention to those signals. Like, that to me is a completely lost art, is knowing what that feels like, knowing the signs of that, instead of just being totally enamored with what your watch says, looking at your watch every 2 seconds. Like, yeah, some pros can do that because they're so calculated and so specific, but they also know their body. Like, they know that they're going to implode. So, like, to me, like, the more you can do that and do those kind of efforts, engaging effort and pacing and patience, like, the better off you're going to be, not just in how you execute that run, but setting yourself up for success come race day.
Yeah, I mean, what we've talked about, pacing is racing, and I do think to me, that's when I'm dialed into that kind of stuff, that's when this training becomes fun too. It's kind of a twisted kind of fun, but it's not about running in picturesque scenic places all the time, but it's like kind of almost reverting back into truly understanding your body and how it feels, and knowing exactly what you have, and kind of locking into what you're talking about, those paces you can finish. And we talk about a lot of like I at least do, I think about like locking into your all day pace, and what does that mean, because I'll tell people that a lot during Ironman. It's sort of like easy, take it easy for a few miles, and then just lock into a pace that you can finish, whatever that is. But to practice that kind of stuff is how you really understand it. And it's just really kind of cool. It's almost like, understanding something on a deeper level. I mean, you may know kind of intellectually what to do, but if you can sort of intuit, I mean, that's a huge part of the sport, is just being super intuitive about your body and knowing without having to think.
Mm. Or even being able to like think and adjust based on how your body feels and where your head's at. Like, I think that's oftentimes like way too overlooked. Like, example, like Saturday, I got up, had early hockey practice at 7. I came back home. It took a little bit of time. Then I hopped on the trainer, and I had scheduled like an hour and 10 minutes, and I was going to do 5 times 6 minutes at threshold. And I got on the bike and I was warming up. And I was like, man, my legs feel smoked. Like, they just didn't have much in them, but I still had the power. I just didn't have the pop. And I don't know about you, but sometimes like when I get on the bike and I have like more than 3 intervals, I know just from how I'm wired, like, I hate stopping and starting. Like, the more so I was going to do one interval at 6. I'm like, yeah, you know what? This easy feels good. I'm more like this. So I adjusted on the fly, and I just started the interval, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to see how long I can go at those watts for the first interval, and then gauge how many less than the 6 I had scheduled, or how many less than the 5 I could scheduled previously could I do, so that I could take the 30 minutes, and I broke it down, like, can maybe do 3 times 10 and see how I felt. And I'm only taking 2 rest breaks, taking one, then taking the other. I'm like, this is my last time I can do this, because it's a mental thing for me. There's no science behind it. It's just like, I just hate stopping and starting, because I feel like every time I do like an active rest period or recovery, it gives myself more opportunity to come up with an excuse. And so what I ended up doing is I did 3 12-minute intervals, which is 36 minutes, not 30. But so I only had 2 3-minute breaks versus, 5 or 4 6-minute breaks. And to me, it was a game changer in being able to get it done. I ended up riding harder than I would have, but I got the job done and I adjusted on the fly. And I think that's something that a lot of athletes don't do is they, whether they, they're kind of pairing their, because I had it mentally, I just didn't have it as much as I wanted to. I mean, I ended up did having it, but it took more mental effort to dig deep than I wanted it to. And so I knew that if I just kept these reps over and over and over again, I'd only had, because to me, and you might be the same way, like to me, a 6-minute rep and a 12-minute rep are the same mentally, not physically, but mentally. Once I'm in a rep, I'm like, this is my rep. I'm going to hold it till I got to hold it. And I can do that. But the restarting over and over and over and over again, sometimes to me that wears on me more than a longer interval with less rest, because I can get in there, I can hold it, and I think that's very specific per individual.
Yeah.
But again, it just goes back to, I knew that, all right, even within like the first 4 minutes of my first 12, I told myself, I'm pretty sure I can hold 230 to 233 the way this feels for all these intervals, and then see what happens. And that's what I was able to do. I definitely wasn't able to go higher like I was the week before, but I was able to get it done. And I think a lot of times, like, we're just too much of a slave to the exact prescription, because we're terrified that if we go too high or too low or too few or too many, it's going to totally mess things up. And it's not, right? It's the lessons you learn sometimes by deviating are 10 times as valuable to you in the long term by what you need to kind of have in your toolbox come race day, than perfectly executing every workout with the perfect TSS score and the perfect, normalized power and the perfect graph and training peaks.
Man, before we can move on, I just think what you mentioned was interesting, that you want to create less opportunity for excuses. And I just think that can be looked at in a lot of different ways. Like you said, I mean, you want to do 2 12-minute intervals instead of 4 6s or whatever. And like, cause you feel like, if I get into that, like, recover, you might bag it or something like that. I think a lot of people think of that in swimming a lot, it's 40 50s.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd just rather do 20 100s, and I think that happens a lot. And, it's funny because a lot of times I'll be like, I'm going to get on and do like a 45-minute treadmill incline thing. And to me, I'm like, God, I don't feel like doing 45 minutes straight right now. So what I'll do is take like 30 to 40 seconds and jump off and do push-ups and then get back on. To me, that is building my excuse almost the opposite way. It's like, I don't have to just stand there and trudge for 45 minutes on a treadmill. It gives me an opportunity to sort of break my body down a little bit and move it around. So yeah, I like what you're saying there, man. I think that there's opportunities all over the place to kind of just mix and match and sort of, because, I mean, if you're doing the work, and it might not be exactly what is prescribed, and it's just sort of a mild variation at times, and it makes you enjoy it more and it feels more manageable, that's the win. Create it.
Yeah. And I mean, I've never seen an athlete blame missing a singular or even a set of 5 workouts when they had a bad race. Ever.
No.
It's either bad inter-race execution or length of time missed in a span of like multiple weeks because of inconsistency or injury. So like just a small reminder of like of the this might sound weird coming from coaches, but like the insignificance in the total picture of a singular workout or even a back-to-back workout. Because I think like there's, and that's something that I'm trying to figure out too, is like, a coach is like trying to weave these opportunities in, with of feeling, but also like execution and effort and specifics, and to break that up, because I do, like you brought up a great point. Like in swimming, you see 40 50s. A lot of people don't see 40 50s of work. They see 40 different 20-second rest periods. And to them, like you said, this is a great point. It's like that to them, that's the most daunting piece, is the stopping and waiting. Because they're like, I'll just do 2100s and break it up, and or get it done quicker. And then if you do the math, they're probably saving like less than 60 seconds over the course of the entire thing. But to them, it's the same way. Like it's how much longer is that going to take, and how many breaks I got to. It's the mental grind that those types of things. And while I think that those kind of sets are good for you also mentally, because to me, it's very similar to like checking off each mile of the marathon, 1 mile at a time. That's it. I just got to make it the next mile. I just got to do the next 50. I just got to make it the next rep. I just got to do the next 200. I got to make it the next mile. Like those things I think you have to practice because it keeps you in the moment, but understanding, like being able to kind of disassociate from the big picture, but also focusing on the rep that matters. Or even doing things like breaking them up into 4. Like I do that sometimes when I swim. I know we're kind of go off on a tangent here, but like Monday I went and swam and I broke it up into like almost time to exhaustion, and because I kind of make up my own swim sets as I go. But what I did is I ended up getting in. I knew I wanted to swim over 3,000, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to swim pull buoy and paddles for as long as I feel like my arms are fatiguing, and then I'm going to stop. So I had no like set yardage. It was just all by feel. And so I did that. And then I do this thing where I refuse to look at how far I covered because I don't want to know how much longer I have until the goal. So my goal was over 3,000. My goal was 3,200. I was like, I don't want to see that. Again, these are just mental games. But I didn't want to know how long I covered the first round. And so I hit the stop button when I stopped, and then I did 450s zone 3, and then I did 625s zone 4. Lap those intervals. Those are pretty quick. And then so I did that 3 rounds. So I started again. I was like, all right, now I'm going to put my pool buoys and paddles back on. Now I'm going to swim steady until I feel like my form is faltering and I'm really starting to like lose pace. Then I hit the lap button, and I won't look at how far I went, and then I'll do this. And coincidentally enough, I did that 3 rounds. I ended up at 3,100. And so I just did 100 easy and I was done. But the point being is like I had some specifics in there like to keep me kind of focused and dialed in with like the 450s and the 625s. They were different intensities. They were hard swimming. I had rest intervals that kind of broke it up. But then I went into like these long, because to me like swimming is hugely like therapeutic. And sometimes I need those longer 4, 6, 800 clicks of just time to just decompress instead of being totally dialed in. And so to me, that was like a good happy medium. So it was like time effort based, for parts of the workout, but then the rest of it was specifics with intensity and interval. And I'm trying to always figure out like different ways to include that in sessions, because I do think that it'll help athletes not feel this like I think there's a point in time where you should be able to just zone out and get the work done. You know what I mean? And then kind of bring you back to me, those were kind of like that was like, to me, that was a long run with 3 different sets of strides in between. Like that's an hour and 20-minute run, and every 25 minutes I do 6 30-second strides. And it's amazing, like when you include those into a long run, how much more engaged you are and how much quicker the time goes by. So again, like to me, so much of what we do, and I know you've always believed this, is just a mind game of kind of tricking yourself, but also like listening to your body, including some specifics, but including some feel. And as you said, like as long as you're getting the work done, the work will end up speaking for itself at the end of the day.
Yeah, I love what you said there about the strides in the long run. And I think that's something that, again, it's sort of like, take an easy run. Well, running isn't just generally easy anyway. So I think that's I think I've always done that, actually. Every once in a while I'll see a hill and I'll be like, you know what, that's a 30-second hill. I'm just going to bust up this and then just come over it and recover and get back into my easy stride or whatever. I think that's good stuff, man. I mean, I know a lot of people kind of get sick of doing long, easy runs. Well, do exactly what you just said. I don't see anything wrong with that. I mean, that's sort of like, race circumstance-y kind of thing. Sometimes you'll hit a hill, or sometimes you'll, be going faster than you think, and you'll have to kind of readjust and get a grip on your pace. And I think it's all good practice, and I don't think that, just because it's a long, easy run, you can't have a few little, ignitions in there. I've never seen anything wrong with that. So, in my, to my athletes, I say, just do that, mix it in. It's not like an interval workout all the time, but just kind of mix up your stride a little bit, because I mean, as we know, that can be harder to just kind of go at the exact same pace and effort for an hour and a half. That's ridiculous. I can't really do it.
That's why I used to hate the old Ironman Louisville run.
Yeah.
It was so pancake flat. You got the same cadence, the same run stride the entire time. And it's a different level of exhaustion, right? 'Cause using the same, pattern, the same cadence the entire time. It's good to like have that. And I love what you said too about like going on a run is like, honestly, I think, 50% if not more of people, if they just went out and ran 4 or 5 days a week, they did one long run and then 2 runs a week. They just set out for 45 minutes and on one run, they worked every uphill they came across, at like zone 3 or zone 4 for one of the runs. And then the next run, they worked the downhills. And just like organically worked it out, like let the terrain do the work and then your effort based on the terrain. I'm telling you, like there's so much success to be found there. And then freedom, to not feel so reined in by your watch and by everything is specific and because you hear the same things like every interval I had came on an uphill or a downhill and it's not reflective. I'm like, well, you can just adjust, right? It doesn't have to be exactly, when it is. You can make a longer warm up, or you can do a shorter warm up, or you can take a, longer recovery or a shorter recovery, like whatever is going to be the best for you. And then we've all got routes that, would dictate, good solid downhills or good solid uphills and rollers and, work the up and work the down, or work an up and a down and then take the next one off. There's all kinds of ways to do that to kind of keep yourself in the moment and feel more in control of the work that you're doing instead of just a slave to the prescribed, pre-structured workout that you feel like has to be done perfectly.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more, man. I mean, when I felt like my best run training is when we lived in Nashville, and the first 2 miles was kind of a gradual downhill to a flat, and then after that it was just ups and downs all over there by the river. And that was perfect because I'd go on a long run and I'd be just climbing some pretty legit hills, and that stuff is awesome to me. Rather, up here where I'm at now, it's all flat usually, and it's just a different vibe. You kind of have to consciously, create those moments versus, if you have good terrain, man, just go use it all the time. We talked about hills are king so many times, and up and down them like that. I love that, man. Work the hills up one time, work it down, just kind of work on different stuff that's transferable to what you need to do.
Yeah, that's the thing I miss the most about Chattanooga is going to run on Stringer's Ridge behind the house.
Yeah. I mean, come on,
you never went more than 6 strides without a change in cadence or cadence, stride, left, right, up, down. It was like short, long, left, right. It goes by so fast, and it's just like, the miles go by slow because you're on trails. But I mean, the work is the work. So just remember that, and not just this time of year, but all, when you're, especially as we kind of balance the mental and emotional toll that training can take on us. We kind of talked about it last week, is like getting burnt out as a choice, and it starts from the chin up. And so like, if you can do these things and stave off that by allowing yourself to be flexible and doing things, like that's the name of the game, is to do those kind of things. So, be flexible in the fuck around, as we say, and listen to yourself and remember, like, 'cause stuff like that, like, it allows you to have fun with training, and to me, that's the most important piece, is making sure you're having fun.
That, and I'll just say one more thing, because it reminded me of, Ironman Chattanooga run course. And if you're good at doing that kind of stuff, like working up hills and working down, you kind of just create a good overall, well-rounded running athlete. The Chattanooga run course, when you come out of that little neighborhood and then you have that bridge, that is like the perfect downhill grade. And I always used to tell everybody, it's like, that's a great opportunity to, make up a little time with just a similar effort if you're comfortable with it. You know what I mean? It's like, you can take advantage of the course a little bit more if you're more versatile. Otherwise it's like, trying to hold a pace exactly the same. At least for me, it's like, as far as effort goes, once you get on a little downhill grade, it's not bad. You should use that, I think. could be wrong.
100% agree. Yeah. There's terrain is, especially with running and cycling, obviously, there's just like, go climb a long hill, go run a long hill. I mean, it's just, there's so much good that can be done from just like those two simple things.
Yeah.
The last question for today from Rob, and this will be kind of a short answer probably. How much benefit is there to training with the lactate meter for a competitive age group athlete? I know they are expensive and I really don't need it for training, but I love nerding out about the physiology. How much can they help identifying zones and lactate thresholds compared to heart rate training? At the end of the day, does it really make a difference? I feel like you answered all your questions in there. One, you said you don't really need it for training, and you can't use it during race. You sound like the prototypical triathlete that brands like to market to. You just love to nerd out about the physiology. Like people like to look at, the graphics and training peaks and the, and the medals and the scores. And like, the thing is like, I use this analogy. I know a ton. I probably overuse it, but whatever. Is, myself and a 2-star Michelin chef have access to the same ingredients and the same aisles in the same grocery stores. But just because we have access to the raw material and the raw, ingredients or the raw data doesn't mean I've got any fucking clue how to make a really solid risotto. I just don't. Mm-hmm. I can even read the instructions and I can know what to do and I can see it and I might like it, but I'm sure I'm not going to make it as good. So all the numbers and all the data and all the information and all these devices and all these platforms and all these things provide, if you don't know how to use it, then you just like the numbers. And that's also okay. But there's a difference in being give some athletes, I'm just a data geek. I'm like, okay, well, go be a CPA. Like, you like numbers. You don't have any idea how to apply them. You don't know what they mean. You don't know how they correspond to certain other metrics. And you don't know how to judge if it's an improvement or not, or how to then apply that going forward to create the next block. So yeah, I mean, do I think it's worth it for a competitive age group athlete? Absolutely not. Because even the best sports scientists in the world would say there's much larger margin for error in doing one than there is for success. And I think that is something that a lot of people don't think about when they do these things is the gigantic margin for error. I like the old talk test for a lot of things, but that's just me. But no, I think for a competitive age group athlete, unless you just like to do it because you like to do it, I don't see the point.
Yeah. And I think, again, I'm a little bit jealous sometimes that people get into that kind of stuff because I think I could see how it would be. I used to geek out in like APBA baseball back in the day, have the stats and all that stuff. But I keep thinking about I grew up in an era, I guess, where, watching like a Michael Jordan or something like that. I can't imagine. He may have been doing stuff like that. I don't know. But
no way.
To me, yeah. Because I saw a thing with this trainer the other day. He said, after every game, I just go up to Mike in the locker room. I go, what time tomorrow? After they got beat by the Pistons and he was trying to get stronger. And he said, what time in the gym or in the weight room? 5, 6, or 7, whatever he said, I would just be there. And then he would be there every time and show up and kick ass. And then, but I always think about, even if he knew all that stuff, there was obviously times in games when he just got into another mindset and a different gear mentally and just took over. So I don't know if he didn't. I'm sure he wasn't saying, "Well, I've got more to give in my whatever." But he probably, honestly, that really is. I bet he understood that intuitively, how to pace himself through a game or whatever, and then know when to turn it up and just exactly how much he had to get to the end. So those are, I guess, two ways of getting there.
Yeah, I think it's overkill for 99.9% of the athletes, but what do I know? That's it. That's all we got. And I feel like my voice negative split throughout the course of today's podcast.
Yeah, you were getting stronger, man.
Yeah, thank you. Getting a little bit stronger. Bring the voice in.
Go get
as always,
butter coffee in that throat, man.
Yeah, it's I had this morning.
Butter coffee. You did? Oh, well.
Yeah, dude.
There it is. It's paying off.
You're making the impact, man. As always, love you guys. Appreciate you. Go to our website, c26triathlon.com. It is our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. If anything for Mike, he's available. Mike at c26triathlon.com. Anything for me, Robbie at c26triathlon.com.
All right, man. I'm going to go lay out the sun a bit.
Yeah. All right. Check you later, dude.
See ya.
Yeah.